Hello everybody, it's Tuesday, it's 3 o'clock, that means it's Tech Tuesday. Today I'm going to be talking about DOCSIS proactive network maintenance, and specifically I'm going to be talking about our PreEqualization Analyzer application, which is our DOCSIS PNM tool, because we've got a new version of that coming out. We're going to be going from version 4 to version 5, so there's lots of changes in how it looks and new features, some exciting stuff. So we'll be going over that, I think, for several weeks. So I'll be right back and we'll get started. Thanks for joining me. I'm Rick Uzzi here at ZCorum, and again today we're going to be talking about DOCSIS PNM and our PreEqualization Analyzer product. So a lot of you who are watching this, since we communicated with you, will be users of this application, DOCSIS PNM. It's a proactive network maintenance tool that helps you, if you've got a cable plant, find problems before maybe they start impacting customers, things that might be hidden by pre-equalization. Ironically enough, when you turn that on in CMTS, that helps smooth things out for your customers. It resolves upstream impairments in the plant, but it does not actually resolve them. I shouldn't say it resolves them. It kind of masks them. So it doesn't even mask them. It actually improves the signal, but because of that, you don't always know that something is wrong in the background, like you've got issues. So that's what PNM is. And today I'm going to be showing you what's new in our application coming up in version 5.0. So let's take a quick look. Not a quick look. We'll try to go over this for some time here today. And again, I think this is probably going to take a couple of different sessions as we go through this. If you're watching and have questions, you can type those into the chat, and I will try to address those if I can now, or I'll try to get you an answer if I can't. I'm not an expert on this stuff. I know it pretty well from a high level. And then also, you know, you've got particular things going on in your plan I may not be able to answer, but I can get the right people to get in touch with you if there's questions about that. So, and then again, you may be somebody who does not use a PNM tool. Maybe you're a cable provider and you come across this and you don't know what PNM is, or you've never seen it. So that'll be good for you. You'll get a chance to see some of the things in these tools. So first off, if you can see right now that the dashboard looks different. Okay, I personally like this better than the old one. I think the old one was good, but this is this BI dashboard, or business intelligence dashboard, provides a lot of information right there in front of you as you open up the application. This is where it opens by default when you open the application. So I think it's got a nice clean look. Make sure I can see my mouse moving here. There we go. So you can see that as before, if you're familiar with the old application, we've got widgets on the front page here. So there's various things that you can look at, and you can add and remove widgets from whatever is available. So first thing is you've got your add widget button here, and for example, here's top technician login. So that one is not on the dashboard, and I can just hit save, and now when I scroll down, there's my top technician logins. Now there's no data available. We're not tracking that. That would be for there's a leaderboard in here. I believe that's related to that, so that if, you know, as your technicians log into the mobile app, there's a couple of things I think is the more they log in and do things, they're going to show up in here, I think, on this top technician logins, because it's showing them logging in. And then the leaderboard, this is kind of a gamification kind of thing where you can set this up so that as people fix things in the mobile app, so as they're going out there and fixing things and they're documenting that in the mobile app, that will then show as a fixed problem, and there's kind of this leaderboard that you'll have on the people that have fixed the most issues. So it's kind of a fun way to kind of gamify these things. But there's nothing in here, so if I wanted to remove that, I just go right here and I can say remove, and then it will take it off. It does ask me, before there was an X here, so that was one change. You could just X out, but people might do that by mistake, so now it just confirms, and you say, yeah, I want to remove this. And this is not a DOCSIS 3.0.3.1 plan, excuse me, so I might not want this RxMER correlation group. This is a new feature that I'm going to be talking about as well. So I'll have to get some screenshots of this, but this is a new feature that I'll talk about. We've got a new feature here. This is a full band channel correlation group, so I'll be talking about this in coming weeks. This would be a correlation of all your downstream spectrum issues, where we put them on the map if they are geographically close to each other and experiencing the same kinds of issues. So you'll see that coming up as well. So those two things that we'll be talking about. But I wanted to cover today some of the basic stuff that you might be using today and what's changed, and I'll cover some things that may already be in version 4. but that may look a little different. Or again, just for people that maybe you're not using the application that much, maybe there's some things that you learned today, even though they're in the current version. So a couple other things about just kind of the look and feel. You'll see this over here. Before, this was expanded out all the time. So this was here, and you could click a button to close it, and it would kind of go that way, it would go away. But now what they have is just they've got the icons here, and then as you scroll over that, they will open up so you can see what these are. You've got your dashboard, your map. This used to be called Detail View when you went up to the menu at the top. The menu used to be up here. So instead of going to Detail View, you would just go to Map. Makes a little more sense, I guess. You've got your CMTS overview. Click that, and it just shows me the different CMTSs. And by the way, this is our trial, not a trial instance, but our demo instance. So we've got our lab in here. We've got a Nokia gain speed that we're working on in the lab. And then we've got a couple of actual CMTSs that are in the field that we're kind of duplicating the data on those. So these are real modems that we'll be looking at, real impairments. But we've taken them and given them addresses in alpharetta. So these, when you see an address and when you see a name, the name is fake, and when you see the address, it's not where these devices are really located. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard here. So you can see again that navigation. Then over here, if you click this little arrow, you will see that we've got some items here that used to be on the side. I think a couple of these were on the side. So you've got your overall health of the CMTSs in this case. Again, I've kind of got 4 that I'm looking at. The number of red modems on there. These are the worst case modems that are the most impaired. Got your change over the last 24 hours and the last 7 days. And I believe the arrows are showing me that things have maybe gotten better here, but the change, I'm not sure how that works, but the change here looks like that's a down arrow. So that might be that that's gotten worse there. Then again, you've got number of CMTS and the total number of modems right there. And looking on the dashboard here, this is your cable modem trends over time. So this is something that you can look at and monitor over time just to kind of see if you notice any kind of trends. It looks like some red modems going down. And then we've got a couple of yellow ones going up. So a couple of these have gotten a little better over time. Looks like a green has gone up a little bit. So that's something that you can check. And you can, if you click these colors, you can take them off of the chart here. So if you just wanted to see your red and your offline, for example, you can uncheck yellow and green. That doesn't do much on that chart. Things are pretty flat here, and there's nothing, like, oh, let's take everything off. There's no, might not be invalid. I'll do that. So you can kind of see the up and down a little bit more on your offline modems when I do that. Invalid modems are modems where we, for one reason or another, cannot get the string. There's a UDP kind of call to these modems to get information, and if for some reason we can't, if it's just an invalid modem, or if there was a problem during that process, maybe the modem is just so badly impaired that we can't get that data, it shows up as invalid. So not just offline, but that's an invalid modem that we can't get the information. So put those back on. And then over here you've got kind of your daily modem status. So how many red modems you have, yellow modems, green. Green is good, yellow and red. And these colors are different than you might find in a corrective diagnostics application like our TrueVision software. So TrueVision is meant to look at things like your RF information, code word errors, basically upstream power, downstream power, SNR, those kinds of things. And we then, based on those figures, determine is a modem green, yellow, or red. And green means everything is good in those areas. Yellow means it's kind of getting bad, and then red means it's bad and could be impacting, very well could be impacting the customer. In the case of PNM, these are more related to the DOCSIS PNM kinds of things that we're looking at, which would be your pre-EQ data, your digital taps, and your in-channel frequency response. And I'll show what those look like here in a minute. So these modems, from the perspective of the customer, might look just fine. So the customer may not have any issue because pre-EQ is taking that information and it's then telling the CMTS is telling the cable modem how to adjust its signal so that customer gets a good experience. So everything may look fine to the customer, but again, that kind of hides the problem. And what PNM does is allows you to find those devices that have impairments, micro reflections and group delay, those kinds of things. So a red modem here and a red modem in TrueVision is going to be different. A red modem here it's a really bad modem, but from the customer's perspective, it still may look okay because pre-EQ is compensating for that. just to make that clear. So you've got that daily info here. And you can, on these widgets, you can move things around. So I've got my cable modem trends over time. Maybe I want to see my cable modem status over time, but I want to put that up here. I can just grab the little 3 bars here and I can move that up. Oops, maybe I move this down, it'd be easier. Do that. Yeah, maybe this goes up. Let's do that. There we go. Yeah, we'll do that. So I'll move it up. So now I've got this one here and that one there. There's my daily modem status there. So this is more of a, this is a trend, and this is more of a daily numbers. And you can see here where unchecking something would be helpful, because we've got down here, we've got our offline and registering modems, and everything up here is online. So if I take that off, I see a little better snapshot of the numbers of these cable modems that have been offline over time. So I can look and see any trends that way, as opposed to just changes. This is changing. These are numbers changing, and these are the actual numbers. So this is the, as this goes up 68, this will increment 68 there, for example. And then I can take off offline. I can see just my registering, and obviously those are small numbers, 1, 2, or 3 here. So that just shows you can uncheck those things and get a more granular look at that. We've still got correlation groups. Oops. Still got correlation groups here in the system, where we look at modems that the application has identified as having very similar upstream impairments. It looks again at the pre-EQ data, and if the modems are adjusting themselves in the same way and they're geographically close, then we assume that there's something like a micro-reflection that is common among those devices. So you might have something in your outside plant between a tap and an amplifier or something like that, where you've got this echo going back and forth, and that's going to be a certain distance, and you've got maybe 10, 15, 20 modems that are on the other side of that are all being impacted by that. Well, they're going to have the same in-channel frequency response, and we then will correlate those, and then you can plot those on a map. So I'll show that again on a future date, probably next week, I think, as I go through some of these changes. We've got Spectra impaired modems. These show the modems where we are doing full band capture, if the modem supports that. So we can then see the downstream spectrum for all channels. That's data and video that's passing through that device. And then we determine which devices are the worst, and we put them here. So you can see adjacency suck out, resonant peak, wave roll off, and I can scroll down the list here. Adjacency, resonant peak, tilt, those kinds of things. And if you click on these, it will bring up that device. And that device is full band capture, since we're showing it here. So then you'd be able to see the full band capture or the spectrum chart on that. And I'll be showing a modem here in just a minute. What else? We've got our critical modem action list. So these are your worst modems throughout all of your CMTS. I noticed that all of these were on the same CMTS that I don't have any fake addresses for, so I wasn't going to pull up any of these. But this gives you an ability to say, okay, what are my worst modems? And let's kind of attack those one at a time. And again, these are from a perspective of PNM data, as far as which ones are the most impaired, even if the customer maybe is still having an okay experience. They might not, because pre-EQ data, or the pre-EQ the equalization of the cable modem it only takes you so far. So eventually the cable modem doesn't have enough power to compensate for that, and then that thing will go off a cliff. So it looks like everything's just fine, and then suddenly, bam, that person's out. And if it's a correlation group, and that micro-reflection gets worse, it might impact maybe 10 modems at the same time, and they all go off a cliff at the same time. So that's why it's good to have this tool. We've still got work orders, birth certificates, and we've still got the modem watch list. I believe they added this rapid poll button, but this is a place. What this does is it allows you to add a modem to this watch list, just so that you can find it easier later. It doesn't do anything as far as polling when you just add it. And I believe the rapid poll means that it's going to poll more often than it normally does. So I put a couple on here just so I can find them easier later. I want to show a couple of things just in the, oh, by the way, you can close this if you don't like that sitting there, those items up at the top. Your search, I was going to show a couple of admin things here before we go to a modem. So you can search by various things, and you can see here it tells you what you can search by. So if you're going by MAC, it says search modem by last 4 characters of the MAC address here. If you do street address, you can go by 3 characters of the street address. So if I type in WIN, like windward, if I type in WIND, WAR, so you can see it starts to get smaller and smaller as you start to match those. So you just can type at a minimum 3 characters. So we've also got fiber node information. You can start typing, search for that by fiber node, customer account, customer last name, CMTS, and then the IP address if it's IPv4 or IPv6. And on IPv6, you've got to search by at least the last block of characters of IPv6 there. So those are your search parameters. A lot of people will do it by MAC or address, name, that kind of thing. If I do Smith, oops, that's MAC address, so it's not going to work, right? So if I go last name, where is it? Customer last name, and I want to put in Smith, then I'm going to get all my Smiths. You can see you've got your time zone here, and you've got your language here. I'm going to go to time zone in a minute, how you change that. So English, if you have somebody who's a Spanish speaker, they can just go in here and click Espanol, and then you can see everything changes to Spanish. You've got French, it's probably Japanese, I'm thinking. And then we've got Portuguese, and that looks like Arabic maybe. Could be Russian, I'm not sure what that is. So anyway, you can change language there. And if there's a language that you need, you can let us know, and I think we can probably make that happen if there's a particular language that you need. This is your dark mode if you wanted to do that. Some people prefer dark. They like it in the dark. I prefer the light mode, but you can see what this does obviously is it changes it to the dark mode. That to me is a little depressing. I like the sunny skies there and the bright screen myself. Now in here you've got your settings when you go under my account, your personal settings. So I'm going to click on that, and you can see I added a profile picture here of me sitting in the same chair one day where I took a snapshot. So different chair actually, same spot. So you can put your profile image in there and it will appear up here. You can change your password here. In this case, we're using LDAP to log into various systems so that we don't have to have a password in each system. So, but here you would have your ability to change your password. This location preferences, what this does, and I don't have all the information on this. I need to get more familiar with this, but the idea here is that if you are a technician and you are only responsible for a certain area, and you've got, let's say, 10 CMTS in PreEqualization Analyzer, and you don't need to see all of that stuff. You don't need to see all the correlation groups. You don't need to see all the spectrum impaired modems. You just want to know what's going on in your particular world, and that might just be a couple of different nodes or something. Then you can go in here and you can select just your areas. Again, there's just 2 things in here because, again, this is a demo, but I think normally you might have like a CMTS and hubs and those kinds of things in here that you can select to just see your areas. And when you do that, then when you go back to the dashboard, when you refresh that, then you will just see, for example, instead of 4 CMTS or 10 CMTS, you might just see 1. And you might just see 1 hub or 1 node, that kind of thing. So that is a way to kind of personalize this for you. As far as time zone preferences that we saw up at the top here, it's Eastern. This is important so that for things like rescans of modems. So if you rescan a modem, when you do that, it's going to rescan and show the timestamp of whatever is up here. Or by default, I believe it would be Eastern because in most cases, this application is living in our data center because most people are using this on a software as a service kind of basis. So you would want to change this to your time zone in here so that, again, when you do a rescan of a modem, that the timestamps and everything will appear as your timestamps. And this is a nice new feature. This is color preferences. So there's about, depending on whether you're male or female, I think maybe depending on your race, that kind of thing, there's somewhere, I think females, it's not too big. It's only like maybe 0.5%, but in the male population, it could be like 8%, 10%, 11% that are colorblind. And obviously, an application like this that's very color intensive, that can be difficult, and especially when you're talking about reds and greens with, good and bad. So you do have the ability in here on a personalized basis, just for you, to go in here and change colors. So if this particular color of red and this particular color of green look really the same to you, you could go in here and darken that up a little bit if that would help. Then just hit done, and that will save that. I'm not going to save that because I like the other red, so I'll cancel that. And the same thing on the green. You might come in here and maybe, if you find that a darker color of green it's easier to differentiate between the red, then you can make that change. So that's a nice little feature for anybody who happens to be colorblind or have some challenges with that. You can change all these colors. You can see, for example, the CMTSs and the node colors and correlations, upstream correlations, RxMER correlations, and downstream correlations are all the same color generally. But you can change any of those, and then you've got your yellows, of course, and offline modems, those kinds of things, your invalid cable modems like we talked about. So that's a nice feature. One other thing I was going to mention on the admin side here, if I recall, what was I going to talk about? Oh, broadcast messages. So this is nice. So you can insert a message here if, let's say, you're going to be doing maintenance. So you could see maintenance on Main Street today, and you've got, you can make that bigger. Let's see, make that a heading, and maybe make it bold. So now that's a broadcast message. Then you decide, and it's a banner. You can do a banner, or you can do an alert. Say I start that today, and I want to end that. I might need a start time. Start that today at, sure, today right now, set. Oops. Today at that time, set. There we go. And then end it tomorrow. That time is fine. And there I go. So now I can add a broadcast message. I think I do that. To do that, yep, added successfully. So now when I go back to the dashboard, and if I refresh that, you'll see there's nothing up here. When I refresh that, there should be, see a little banner right here, maintenance on Main Street today. And that will appear here until I close it. I can close that if I'm tired of looking at it. And it won't appear again while I'm logged in, but if I log out or tomorrow when I log back in, it will appear again if that message is still in effect. So that's a nice way to maybe be able to communicate to some folks through that banner message there. Let's see if there's anything else. I think that was it there. So let's take a look at a modem, at some changes. Again, I picked a couple here that I wanted to check out just to show you what's a little bit different here. So like version 4, when you open a modem, it does open in a new tab. So it's now opened this in a new tab. Now something that we have added here, which is nice, is that now you have right up at the top anything that we are noticing is wrong with this device. So we see that we've got upstream failed parameters. There's a cable modem upstream transmit power and micro reflection levels that are bad. So we can see that there's a micro reflection there. And we do have some Spectra impairments. So there's a resonant peak and a tilt when we're looking at the downstream data that we're collecting here. So that shows up at the top. You've still got copy to clipboard up here. This is nice that because, again, this is an extra tab, you can just click that, or you could copy this right up here, and that will copy that URL, and then you can just share that with somebody. They need to be logged in, so when you send that to them, and if they click that URL, it will bring them to the login page. They'll log in, and then they can see that same device that you're looking at. You can do the same thing with correlation groups, by the way. I don't know if there's a copy, but in any event, you can copy and paste right up there that URL. We've got birth certificates still on this device. A birth certificate will show up when you've installed a modem. So you see the install button right here. So when you've got a technician out installing a modem, they can click install modem, and then they can do that from here or from the mobile app. And that will then run a set of checks on that device, and it will tell you if that device fails or passes based on the parameters. So I can click the birth certificate here, and when we did the quote install on this device, we can see that it failed, and we can see why. And we can see that the upstream issue was a problem. It looks like downstream was fine. But we had, I don't think I can open that, or can I? Yeah, I can open the downstream information here, and I can see all the channels. And I can see what failed. And you've got your tooltips here, and these can be changed, by the way, under admin as well. If you want to change what these tooltips say when you hover over something, there is a place to do that under the admin settings. I'll show you that here in a second. And you can save this birth certificate as a PDF if you want to archive that or send it to somebody. You've got our created time right there, and you can run birth certificates more than once. It will show you the different birth certificates when you do that. So let's say it fails, then you can go ahead and try to make some changes and get that going again. So this gives you a nice historical record of when you install the modem to at least say, okay, well, we left the home, everything was working good. Here this particular case, it says remove from watch list. Because I have this modem on a watch list, I can remove it. If it was not on the watch list, it would say add to watch list right here. You've still got the ability to create work orders. This would be where you can, here it says Spectrum modem work order, but you can put in work order and select somebody to work on it, you can put in a comment here, and that will then send that to them on their mobile device, and they can then address that, and again, they can go in there and work on it and close it out if they fix that. You can ping the modem. Ping's not going to work from here. I don't think we have it allowed on the, since again, this is not our CMTS, I don't think it's allowed, but if you ping the modem, you'll see the pings show up just so that you know it's online, everything's working right, as far as just communicating with the modem. Here's where you would install the modem, where it runs through that check of information and then archives that. Then you can rescan the modem right there. Again, you've got your subscriber info down here. This all looks somewhat the same. You've got your modem details right there, telling you all about this modem, how long it's been up, what the vendor is, and software version. And then here's your downstream information. So we've got on here, you've got your, if there was OFDM, if this was a DOCSIS 3.1 modem, you would see some OFDM channels on here. In this case, it's all ZCorum, and then so we've got ZCorum, we've got our MER right there. So we've got those right there. So this is your latest information that was polled, and you can see the poll time here. Now, the way that you get to your historical information, I believe on the last version there was a little play button down here, just on the same chart. In this case, now what we have is a historical chart, and here is your play button. So you can hit play, and this will now progress, and you'll see these lines changing somewhat as we go, as I'm going back in the past. So the idea here would be that you would be looking to see what might have changed in the past. This could be if you fix something, or if you want to, if something's bad and you want to see how far back in the past it was happening, you can do that right there. And the nice thing about having it, I can just hit pause, and now I can go back to latest. So the nice thing about having it kind of in a separate little tab there is I can go back and forth and see what's different. So obviously I've got my ZCorum right here is higher on my historical one right there. So that would be my, I guess that's my power levels versus my MER. So again, that's the historical information. Down here we've got your ICFR chart. This is your in-channel frequency response and your cable modem taps. And in this case, it's not too bad. So we've got our red, yellow, and green, and we're a little bit into the yellow on this. And if I look at my digital taps, this is kind of my threshold line here. And I don't see anything over the threshold. It gets a little bit close here on taps 9 and 10. These taps tend to indicate a in-home problem because these are going to be a shorter distance. As you get further out, these are longer distances, so your echo cavity gets longer. And then the other thing you can see is on this device, again, this is a little bit of a squiggly line here, and this is kind of representative of what the top of the haystack looks like on this channel. And we can see what it looks like after it's been equalized by pre-equalization. You can see everything looks really pretty good. So that's what pre-EQ does, right? Is it takes that signal, the CMTS tells the cable modem, hey, distort your signal basically in the inverse of what I'm seeing, and then this is going to look a lot better for the customer, and that's what we're doing. And you can see that this is a lot flatter, and you can see our digital taps are now much, much lower and well below the threshold line. So that's showing me what it looks like after it's equalized. This is what it would look like if it was not being equalized. So the worse this gets, you can see that if you were to turn off pre-EQ, that customer would be offline basically. So here I can see my channels and what's bad on the upstream. So both of these are red, and I can see I've got my micro reflection level here that is too high. So there's a micro reflection. It's not to the point where it's showing an in-home or an outside plant issue. This is another change visually in the application. Before it would say VT, or it would say TDR, and it would say VTDR, which is virtual time domain reflectometry. So you had TDR and VTDR, and the TDR was meant to show your problems that were more close to the home, near home, in the home kind of thing, and your VTDR was meant to show outside plant. You know, your longer distances. You know, you might have like a distance here of 75 feet. And here you might have a distance of 700, 800, 900 feet. So these were longer segments of cable where you've got a reflection bouncing back and forth. So now they call that IH and OSP for in-home, outside plant. And again, you can see your tooltips right here to tell you what that is. Then you've got your nearby modems. And this is interesting. So as you scroll over that, you'll see it goes kind of black, and it tells me to use Control Scroll to zoom the map. I think the reason they did that, and it was really kind of annoying, is when I was using my mouse wheel to scroll, and I would scroll over here, and I'd get to this point, my map would start scrolling. And I didn't mean to do that. I was just scrolling down the page, and then I'd get to here, and it would pause, and my map would scroll. So now what it's telling me is if I want to scroll on the map using my wheel, I have to hit Control. So I can hit Control now and scroll in and out. Or you can use your buttons right there, your in and out. But I can't do that or it goes away. So now something I don't know if you noticed there is, can I close that? Yeah. So now we identify these modems on the map a little bit better so that they're easier to see. We put a little circle around the bottom of it and we put a triangle over the top of it. So if you're moving around the map, then it's easier to find, just like that, because I can always go there. And also if this, if you click on it and you're moving around the map and this stays here, you can always hit, now you can hit zoom to, that might have been there before, I can remember. I hit zoom to and that's going to kind of center it back where I was before. So that's what that is. And now the legend, I think the legend was across, yeah, the legend was across the bottom of the map before. Now to view the legend, we're not taking up that room unless you want to see it. So you click right there and that's going to tell you what all of these little colors and different shaped map pins are. So of course we've got our different colors for red, yellow, green, invalid, and offline. And again, these are based on the severity of the impairment. Then we've got our, any correlation groups are going to be showing up this color because again, that's our color preference that we had. These would be, and these are just showing black because they're showing you the different types of things that you see in here. For example, with the arrow and the circle, that's telling me that that's my selected modem. If it's a full band capture capable modem, then it's got this shape that I see right here. If it's not, then it's got more of this teardrop shape right there. So that's not full band capture capable. This one is. The V tells me that it's a bonded, that it's got bonded channels. So when I see a B like that, it's got bonded channels. When I see a number like this, you see here, it's got an N for number, but when you see a number 2, that means it's a stacked modem. That could be like an apartment building. In this case, we've got lots of different modems assigned to the same address because again, this is kind of, these are modems that are somewhere else in the world, and we're just placing them on a map in Alfreda. So we do have some that are showing up in the same spot, but you know, a prime example of this, rather than a home that would have 2 cable modems, might be like an apartment building, something like that. So then you've got your stacked modems that would show like 2 or 7 or 12 or however many are showing up as stacked there. Intermittent modems would be modems that are going to show up on the intermittent modem report. I'll show that in a second. That's very important for finding ingress in home. And you got partial modems. If you see a P there, that means it's there's 1 or more channels that are not working on that modem. It's supposed to have, let's say, I don't know, 10 downstreams, and it's only got 8, or it's only got 1, or something like that. So what else? You got your CMTS and your nodes, which I'll show you on the map here in a minute. So I can close that legend at any time. And I was going to pull up another modem here, so I'm just going to go back to this. I think it might have been, was it this one? Is that the one I was just looking at? It's this one. So this one you do see shows as an intermittent modem. I don't think this one, I don't think I've got this modem on the map anywhere, so I probably have no, oh, I do, okay. So it's not showing me I on there, but it is showing me that it's bonded and it's red in this case. But I can click right here. So again, I've got the failed reasons, intermittent modem, and I can click that. And what this is showing me, an intermittent modem is when you have your cable modem transmit power varying at the same time as your pre-EQ data. So it's basically you've got cable modem transmit power and you've got MTR, which I believe is main tap ratio. So those taps that we see, I'm going to go back to this one real quick just so you can see. So these taps that we're looking at here, this is your main tap, tap 8, and in a perfect world, like if I go back to post EQ, in a perfect world, you got most, if not all of your power going through this tap here. As these things get more out of whack, your ratio changes, right? And then if there's noise introduced into the plant right around that cable modem, then these are going to be changing even more. So we call it intermittent because, you know, sometimes it looks one way and then it changes, right? So again, you may, as more noise gets introduced, these taps are going to change, and that's going to change your main tap ratio. I believe that's how all that works. So when you see that happening, you know, again, if the transmit power goes up because the noise is also changing at the same time, you'll see something like this, and we correlate that, and we say this looks like there was some noise here. So something at this customer home, in the home or near the home, is letting in noise. So it could be a cable that's bad in the ground. It could be something like that. It could be a bad connector on the side of the home. It could be a bad connector in the customer's home. So this is a way to kind of attack those in-home and near-home issues, and you can check, get your worst ones and kind of methodically try to get rid of those. As you do that, you're going to be cleaning your plant up, because obviously all this noise is heading upstream to the CMTS, and that's going to impact everybody that's in that path. So it's good for you that way to get rid of those. And then also, as you get rid of some of these in-home, near-home issues, it makes it easier to identify correlation groups of common impairments, because sometimes if a cable modem's all messed up near the home, it doesn't register as part of a correlation group, because the in-home, near-home problems kind of drown that out. So a couple of things to think about there. Back to this one, because I didn't show it to you, is the spectrum. So as I scroll down here, I've got this. I've got my table here, my modems here, and then I've got my Spectra chart here. So this is full band capture capable. So I'm looking at the spectrum chart here, and this is identified. You can see, again, what did it say I had? It said I have resonant peak and tilt. So as I look at this, the tilt is this, it's showing me tilt, I guess this going down here and this kind of tilting down this way throughout this whole path here. And then it's showing me a resonant peak right there. And I can zoom in anywhere in here by just grabbing and doing that, and then I double click and it goes away. So if I want to zoom in on this whole area, for some reason it's not showing up on the screen there, but I can zoom in right there and I can see specifically what they're talking about. It's showing that as a resonant peak, maybe almost like an adjacency, maybe because of this going up here, but then again it looks up there, so I don't always see exactly what they're finding there. But so that's your spectrum chart right there. You can again go back in time and see how things have changed. I'm not seeing, when I clicked one time back, I'm not seeing that resonant peak, and then I go again and again, but it's not identifying that. So as that, this is showing an adjacency here, so that is what it looked more like. So showing that change right there as an adjacency going from there, and you can hover over here. I think I'm not seeing all of them. It might be because of the broadcast. Oh, no, I can. So if I hover over that, well, I'm not seeing that here. Again, maybe because of my application that I'm broadcasting from, because I usually see that. So you can hover over and see those figures normally when you zoom in like that. You can also in here, you can rescan the modem. You can take off the channels if you don't want to see those. You can take off the impairments if you just want to look at it that way. So those are two little toggles that you've got right there. And then here's your reference level. You can move those up and down as you need to. So let's see if there's anything else on the modem screen. I believe that's it. So again, you've got all of your tasks up here. You can download this as a PDF if you want to do that. And again, you can copy and send that to somebody right there. Let's see what else that I might want to cover today. How much time we've got? That's about when I wanted to end today. So let me see if I've got any questions. Oops, I just had it up there. So from Ben, oh, hello Ben. Spectra chart is not open by default on the modem page. Is this by design? I think it is. Yeah, I believe it is by design because it was open. You're right, it is open by default. Is this the one? This one doesn't have it. It is open by default on the old application. I think that's just to kind of reduce the scrolling and the noise. So that way you come down here. If you want to look at either one of those things, you can. You just click on it, and it's right there. So, and the same thing here. This one might have been clickable to open on the other one, but you've got your VTDR here as well. And this one doesn't have anything because there's nothing wrong. I don't think I have a device. Let me go to a really bad modem here. So my critical modems. So let's see what this one's got. So you can see here, this is an example of a really bad modem where I've got my ICFR is all over the place, you can see these taps are way over, especially on this one channel. Looks like it's, here's where you change your channels, by the way. So that channel looks like that. And if I look, take that off, look at the other one, look at this one here, and you can see way over my threshold there on that. And you can see, again, that pre-EQ, even with something that's as bad as this particular modem, it gets evened out really well, really nicely when pre-EQ is turned on. So that's what it looks like in actuality versus what it looks like as far as normal. Again, not on the map because we don't have this one plotted, but if I go to VTDR, I can see my information here. And something else, something I think is new here is that I can zoom in. If that's all kind of clustered together, I can zoom in there and get a little bit better look at what that is here. And then I just, like all these charts, if I double click, I go right back to that. So I can zoom, double click, and go back. And then it's got pre-EQ and post-EQ. And I never really notice a difference there. I'm not sure what that is. Sorry about that. And I've got hardline and drop cable. Changes slightly. So sorry that I can't really explain that today. But in answer to your question, yeah, that's the case. Corey, are you able to explain what a resonant peak is or how it normally shows in the Spectra chart? No, not very well. I know, resonant peak is going to be where you've got, I think, a peak, the spectrum peaks up in a place where it's not supposed to be. So let me go back to, lost which one it was. That's not that one. Close that. There's my, it's not that one. Must be this one. There we are. Yeah, so like if I look here, if I zoom in just a little bit, no, this is showing the adjacency. Let me go back where it was showing the resonant peak. And frankly, I don't know if that really was a resonant peak. Maybe it is. Yeah, look, it might be talking about this area here going up. But generally, I think it's going to be where you've got a peak coming up in your spectrum. And we actually have we've got an ebook on our website showing the different kinds of impairments on the downstream. Maybe I'll post a link to that in the comments that shows you what a resonant peak looks like, what a suck out looks like. And generally, those will, what this application is doing is it's looking at the different data points here, and it's saying, does this look like tilt? Does this look like it would be a suck out based on where it is? And it's doing its best to kind of guess. It takes somebody who knows really what they're looking at to go and say, oh yeah, I see there's a real suck out there, that's a real problem. So we're trying to give you, kind of point you in the right direction. And you can actually, if you go under the admin settings, let's go to, I think it's under settings, general settings, thresholds, Spectra configuration. So you can actually go in here and adjust these levels so that, like, let's say you're getting too many false positives on resonant peaks. Do I have that? Let's see, noise, roll off. Yeah, peak level. So you can adjust the peak level based on that. You've got your tooltip here showing you what that is. So if you need help with something like that, we can get an engineer on to talk with you and tell you, okay, well, you can adjust this way or that way to maybe reduce the number of times that you're seeing that so that you don't see as many things showing up in Spectra. And you've got other things in here. Under your general settings, this is where you, let's say you don't want to see as many red modems. You can adjust that in here as well. That's where I mentioned the broadcast messages. That's why I put the broadcast message in. You've got your tooltips here if you wanted to change what those are. Those messages, you can change those here and edit those for folks. So hope that answers your question. Probably not. But again, I'll go ahead and post a link to that ebook that we have that shows some of those spectrum charts and kind of what those things look like and what maybe some of the causes, some of the things that can cause a suck out or resonant peak. So I'll see what I can do there, Corey, and put that on the site. And I may have, if you're a user of this application, I may be able to find you in here and send you an email with that as well. So thanks for joining. Next week, I want to talk about some correlation groups and just some kind of go through those. The traditional correlation group that we're used to that shows you devices that are experiencing a similar upstream issue. And again, these are, I don't know if anything's going to show up in here. Probably not, because these modems don't really exist where we say they do. So normally you'd see, yeah, well, this is pretty interesting. So this is showing 3 devices. These are a correlation group, and it's showing 3 that have a pretty similar signature, which is funny or interesting because these modems don't actually exist here. These are somewhere up north, not anywhere near us, at some other address, but it's very possible that these are actually part of a real correlation group, and they just so happen to be in a similar vicinity somewhere wherever they are up north, and we're showing them that they really are correlated, because these signatures are pretty similar, very, very similar. Now, a lot of times they're almost exact, so it's like almost on top of each other, but it does look like they could be correlated in some way. And let's look at the digital taps. And digital taps a little bit different. So anyway, so we'll look at this correlation group. We will also look at the correlation groups again for full band capture. I may have to get some screenshots of this. I might not have it have that available here. And RxMER, which would be for DOCSIS 3.1 modems. There's no DOCSIS 3.1 modems on this system, so I'm going to have to come up with something there to show. But we'll talk about that. I forgot to show history as I was thinking about these modems that are, let's see, let me go back again. A modem like this, I forgot to show the historical data right here. So that now exists here. Might have been there before. So I click history. Now what I'm looking at is this modem history over time. So again, I can click back and forth on this, or I can hit the play button and kind of go backwards as we go here, and it will show me how this information has changed over time. And what you'd be looking for would be big swings. This modem's been performing the same way for a long time, obviously. There's not much change here on the digital taps or on this ICFR. But if you wanted to go back, like let's say this modem suddenly started having a problem, you could go back and see when that was, or you could see how things are changing there. But in general, as I go through time here, it doesn't look like it's really changing much. You can also go back and forth manually like that as well. And as you do that, you will see your poll times, the current time and the latest poll time showing there. So latest poll time here, currently showing, and then if I go latest, I go right to that. So again, thanks for joining me. I will be back next week. Wait a minute, I see a couple other questions here. When will this version 5 be released? Some folks have it now only because they're new, and we just went ahead and deployed that, or they're trialing it right now. So some of you who are watching may be like, oh, this looks familiar. But for most of you, you don't have it, and we're in the process of planning that right now. I don't think we're planning on doing everybody at once. So we'll probably be contacting you, or you could contact if you really want to see this and get going on it, you could contact your business account manager, and they will make sure that you get on that schedule, or we'll be reaching out to you to let you know when. We're going to do that. Joe says, do I update customers' info via able to visualize in the map without having to wait the next CMTS full scan or forcing the scan in the CMTS? I'm not sure I understand the question, Joseph. I will pass that along unless you want to try to tell me more what you're talking about there. Do I update customers' info to be able to visualize the map without having to wait the next CMTS full scan or forcing the scan in the CMTS? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. So yeah, you can go in and rescan a modem right here. So, this particular modem, let's say you fix something and you want to know, did it change? You can always just hit rescan. It takes a while. So I don't know if we'll want to, so you can see here, it's telling me it's rescanning and in process. So it's not something you would do all the time, but yeah, if you want to see if something's changed, then you can do this. You can see right now it's 7%, 8%. So I'm just going to let that go. And there's probably not going to be a change, but oh, wait, take that. Wow. Okay, so that went pretty quick once it hit that point. So that's a rescan of the modem, and this modem's been fairly consistent, so I didn't expect, excuse me, anything to change. But if that's your question, yes, you just go up here and rescan the modem. No need to go into the CMTS, and no need to wait for the next polling period. You can even, I believe, rescan nodes. The other thing I want to show next week is well, actually, let me show it now. I'm going to show you just kind of the main map here and how this works. No, I'm going to do this next week. I'm going to show you the changes in the map. It's just going to take too long. So I'm going to show you how this map has changed and how we've kind of made the data table map-centric now. So you can see here I've got my CMTS. There's actually 3 CMTSs, but I've only got one. I've only got addresses kind of faked for one of them, so only one is showing up on the map. But normally you might see all of your CMTSs here, then you drill in, you can see your nodes, then you can see your modems, and I'll show you the data table. I'm going to show you all of that next week. So tune in at 3 o'clock next week, and I'll send an email to, again, all of our PreEqualization Analyzer users just as a reminder. But I'll be back next week at 3 o'clock, so I will see you then. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.